Hello and welcome to Starting Points, where one thing can lead to another. Here's a few examples. In looking at plants and growing plants, here's a neat book. It's by Richard Langer, and his wife did lovely pen drawings inside of plants that they grew after dinner. In other words, they took seeds from food that they ate and then planted it. The after dinner gardening book also comes in paperback, and it's filled with lots of practical, helpful, getting started information. But some of the kinds of things that he managed to grow. He used mango, pineapples, Chinese gooseberry, avocados is a good one, artichokes, the Russian mammoth from Kansas is sunflower, pomegranate, papaya. What else? He has a chapter in here on the ungrateful caterpillar and sundry such intruders, which reminds me, one thing follows another. A bug book. This is a harmless insect controls. It's by Helen and John Philbrick. And, this book has got, again, practical, useful information to help one get started, starting points. Once you've started, then you gain confidence, and then you branch out and try some other things that might grow, and see how it works and learn. Just like Richard Langer learned. He didn't know what was going to happen before he had got interested in trying to find out as much as he could about. Now this has got, for instance, an alphabetical list of vegetables, fruits, and herbs, their common pests, and companion plants, because planting something where there's another plant beside it which might deter the caterpillar, the insect that might affect it otherwise, is one control method which is proved to be quite successful. Well, they list the vegetables, the insects, and the companion plants. Artichoke, globe artichoke, a few aphids. Companion plants, they don't list any. But for many, they will be listing plants you could plant in conjunction with it. There are things like the dandelion. There's none or few insects that bother the dandelion. The biggest threat to the dandelion is the people who dig them up and want to get rid of them. They're beautiful flower. And the globe that they produce for their seeds is a beautiful, catching the light of a field of them in flower, or a field of them with the globes, is just amazing. Now, First Nations people knew that the dandelion was something nutritious, one of the first plants that they could eat in the spring. Other people eat them in the spring, even in sort of fancy restaurants in New York. There are people who supply dandelion greens. In New Brunswick or Nova Scotia, people eat fiddleheads, a fern. One harvest in the spring. You have to be careful if you're harvesting them as the fiddleheads come up to not be greedy and take all the fiddleheads. You want to leave a few so that there'll be fiddleheads again next year. So anyway, that's besides what New Zealand spinach. Fewer non-insects bother New Zealand spinach. So there's quite a list. This alphabetical goes on way down to the watermelon. Then insects found in the herb garden, insects attacking small fruit, insects attacking small fruit trees, insects attacking common shrubs, and then insects frequently found in the flower garden, and which flowers certain insects that bother them. Well, having done that, they then have an alphabetical list of insects, their damages, and their controls. So it starts right off. And have little drawings, cutworms, flea beetles, fruit flies, gooseberry caterpillar. Oh, I remember we were trying to grow some gooseberries once, and oh, they had a tough time. Now, seeds. The Wonders of Seeds by Alfred Stefferud. And this book was around for a long time. It was first published, of course, the publisher publishes the hardcover, and then if it seems to be successful enough, they'll publish a paperback edition. And I want to read you a little something from the paperback edition. This is about a seed that was viable, meaning it would germinate after 1,000 years. So many seeds only are good for a year or 2 years. Seed packets will tell you what is the sort of expiry date. And this seed was the lotus seed of a variety of lotus that grew not in Egypt but in around China and that area. And here's a lotus seed pod that my wife and I and our 2 oldest sons driving along this road. I sort of just out of the corner of my eye see this opening and a little pond and about 30 of these lotus seed heads. And we stop, and we go back and walk over, and I pick a few of them. And this is maybe 5 of them, and this is the last one, a little worse for wear. It's got a shape like it could be a top, a spinning top, or it could be some sort of a hat. But the seeds will float and be spread, because that's what the plants want to do, to get the seeds not to be just right at their base, but to spread out a little bit. So they might float a little bit in the water before they, amazing variety of plants and their seeds that last. I want to read you a little excerpt in here. Many seeds have been stored for 150 years in a dry place in the British Museum in London. A bomb hit the museum in the war. That's the Second World War. It caused water to soak into the materials in which the seeds were kept, and so gave them the moisture they needed in order to sprout. Of all those seeds, only 2 kinds sprouted. One was seed of the mimosa tree. The other was the lotus. And another little something I wanted to share with you. Farmers in England rubbed their eyes in wonder at the strange plants that were coming up one summer in a neighbor's fields. They counted 20 kinds of weeds they'd never seen before. Finally, they found the reason. The neighbor had used a sort of fertilizer on his fields, some waste wool from mills in Yorkshire. The wool had come from Australia. In it were burrs and seed weeds that had got tangled in the sheep's coats. They had to be cleaned out before the wool was spun into cloth. They were in the waste that the farmer had put on his field, and they soon sprouted. That was a long journey for the seeds, but that is not all. Most of the plants that produced the seeds were not Australian natives. They'd been brought to Australia from their original homes in North America, Chile, and the Mediterranean countries. So when you pick stickers out of your dog's coat after a walk or run in the fields, you may be sowing a new crop of weeds if you just throw them on the ground. Well, that reminded me of this story I've shown you before, the story of Rosie Duck by Jenny Baker. And that picture I showed you right toward the end where the Rosie Duck had just spread and taken over. Now, this book also deals with seeds. Pop, Stick, Glide. It's by Patricia Lauber and the photographs by Jerome Wexler. He takes just amazing photographs of the various plants. The maple seeds, they're the ones that would glide or fly. Sticks and shooting out. So walking home from the library just a week ago, maple seeds. Now when they mature, they will get to the point where a seed gets heavy enough that the two seeds will break apart and flutter down. Yeah, if there's a breeze at the time, they'll flutter a little bit away from the shade of that maple tree into a place where they maybe get a good start. There's some other little maple seeds, quite different in size and angle, and well, there's more than one maple tree. And also I picked up this seed. This is, well, I can see through it. It's such thin, I can see right through it to see my finger. And this, out of this little seed that can really blow in the breeze because it's starting high up in a tree. It's the elm tree. And in a breezy day in the fall, it'll travel quite a ways and just flutter through the air. We used to go out, there were a couple of trees near at our playground, and we'd just, maybe once in a fall, we'd go around trying to see how many we could catch. It was a fun game, very hard game, but a fun game. Speaking of photographs, though, a mysterious presence in the seed. Microphotography of plants. The microphotography is done by Esther Bubley, B-U-B-L-E-Y. And the text is by Perry Knauf. And fascinating photographs. I'm sure there are other books along this line as well. Now this is a biography. I really like this biography. It's straightforward. It's easy enough that a 10-year-old could understand it, but it's inspiring about his life and the struggles, mainly financial to begin with. He ends up as gets an education thanks to his father and thanks to his mother. Reminds me a little bit of Snowflake Bentley and how the parents wanted to support him and he gets a job as a monk, and he gets fascinated by the pea plants growing on the monastery garden. And he doesn't have to travel around the world like some of those naturalists with Sir James Cook, Captain Cook. He just stays there and observes what's handy right there. Keeps meticulous records and creates an understanding of heredity, which it wasn't until after he died that his work gets unearthed, sort of, and one realizes what he's discovered. But one can't congratulate him for it. It's a lovely book. The last book is also a lovely book. It's a thin little book, 69 pages, and it's by Paul Fleischman. And he dedicates it to his mother and father. His father wrote books as well, so he came by the writing by seeing his parents do that and thinking, so, and I want to just share a teeny few sentences. I filled my lunch thermos with water and reached into our jar of dried lima beans. Then I walked outside to the street. The sidewalk was completely empty. It was Sunday, early in April. An icy wind teetered trash cans and turned my cheeks to marble. In Vietnam, we had no weather like that. Here in Cleveland, people called it spring. I walked half a block, then crossed the street and reached the vacant lot. Well, the good detectives that you are have already figured out her intent, what she plans to do. I've skipped the part that tells you why she wants to do it. But it's quite a story because someone looking out their apartment window notices what she's doing and becomes curious. And before long, a wonderful, magical thing takes place in Cleveland. But it could take place anywhere. Well, thanks for joining me. Until next time, bye for now.